Matthew Wood and Tanner Molendyk, welcome to Smashville, friends. The Preds make their first two picks at the 2023 NHL Draft. We've got draft grades and expectations for what happens in day two today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Locked On Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We appreciate you guys making us your first listen of the day. And as always, a special shout out to the loyal Locked On Pred heads out there. You guys know who you are, the everydayers who tune into us every single morning. We love you. We appreciate the support that you guys give us. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at InsideThePreds.com.
Should have said a partner in crime who, like me, is very, very tired.
Very tired. Yes.
Yeah. So also today we have a sponsor. Today's show is sponsored by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same for your vehicle. So parts that fit. Head to ebaymotors.com and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit, ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions apply. Yeah, we got through the end of the draft last night. It was, by the time you and I had time to even think about recording, it was like 11:30 at night.
Yes.
All the equipment that we had was low on battery because we've been using it to get interviews and other content. I think at some point we were just like, let's just go home and it's in the morning.
We'll be fresh in the morning, y'all. We are so much more fresh right now than we were last night. And that may mean something because we're pretty tired right now. But yeah, last night it was a really exciting night. I think the whole week in Nashville has been exciting, but with two first-round draft picks and all of the rumors and whispering that was going on ahead of the draft even starting, and that kind of increased as the draft went on, it was emotionally exhausting, y'all.
Yeah. The draft, like even before the draft was exhausting.
Yes.
Like the lead up to the draft was exhausting yesterday.
Yes.
There was the reports that just happened to pop up that, hey, Yaroslav Askarov might be available in a trade. That won't turn into a whole thing.
Yeah.
Then there's, Predators moving up to 4th, Predators moving up to 5th. There's just everything that was out there at once. And Ann and I were just texting back and forth at like 4 o'clock, 2 hours before the draft. And it's like, are we going to make it out of this day alive?
Like, will we even know what just happened? So it was crazy. And what was so interesting to me is that Nashville really was, for the most part, the centerpiece of all of the rumblings. And I think that's kind of fun. Everybody knows what Nashville had in their pockets, and everybody knows that Barry Trotz, he's been running up the phone bill. He's been very upfront about the fact that I've been making calls. So it just really kept the buzz around the Predators and what they would try to do up until the last minute going. And by 11:30 last night, Nick and I were running on fumes, y'all.
Yeah.
Fumes, I tell you.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to talk about the Predators picks in just a second and what the Predators did and did not do. Matthew Wood, big scoring forward from the NCAA, plays at UConn. Preds pick him with their 15th overall pick. Second pick, going off the board a little bit.
Yeah.
Predators going Tanner Molendyk, 24th overall. Our buddy Eric Dene had him ranked a lot lower, 47th, but he still likes the player himself. Our buddy Hottie at Locked On Hockey Prospects didn't like the pick. So we have some conflicting things on there. So a lot to talk about with what the Preds did. But first, let's talk about the night overall, Ann, because we started off, no surprise, Connor Bedard.
Connor Bedard.
From there, that's where things got a little bit interesting.
That was the last predictable event for a long stretch of this first round draft, because I think everybody really was very certain that Anaheim was going to take Adam Fantilli. I would have taken Adam Fantilli. He seemed delightful, but they did not. And that sort of began this reshuffling, whether it was at the draft tables or whether it was just in everybody's mind of, wait a minute, how is this going to go? And there were some really interesting picks down the stretch that sort of threw this first round into a little bit of what's next. Wait a minute, who is still available? Wait, I can't believe they took that person. And so it really was kind of a wild first round.
Yeah, and for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who were absolutely pissed that they fell out of the top two.
Yeah.
Boy, do they get the gift of a lifetime, get a franchise center to build around. They already have, Kent Johnson there. They have David Jiricek on the back line. All of a sudden, the Columbus Blue Jackets now have like that main piece. And you look at all their prospects, and the Blue Jackets of all teams looking like a team that 4 or 5 years down the road is going to make some serious noise. So they were the big winners of the draft. Yeah, if you're the Anaheim Ducks, like my thing on that, Anne, is that I like Leo Carlsson. Mm-hmm. I think Leo Carlsson is a really, really good hockey player. It's just, to me, like Fantilli, I think Fantilli and Mishkov were, in terms of talent, the next tier under Connor Bedard. Mm-hmm. And then there was a slight gap between them and like where Carlson, Will Smith, and Ryan Leonard were, or some other players like that. So I like Leo Carlsson. I think he's going to be a really good NHL player. My thing is just why did you pass up Adam Fantilli? Like, I think that's just the upside there is, you could be passing up like a guy who's going to be a legitimate superstar in this league.
Yeah. They must have seen something very, very specific from Carlsson that they liked, because I agree with you. I think, if you go into this draft and you have the perspective of, we're going to try to find a franchise changing player, Adam Fantilli is that guy. And I'm not saying that Leo Carlsson is not talented too. So please hear me on that. Absolutely. Yeah. Of course,
the top, like we just said, like very, very good player. It's just you pass up, somebody who might be better.
And then, I think so. Okay, if you're going into it and you think we're going to try to pick a franchise-changing player, I think you go to Adam Fantilli. If you go into the draft and you say, you know what, we're just going to take the best next available player, regardless of position and all of that, I still think you land at 2 at Adam Fantilli. So it really must be something that Anaheim, in conversations with him or as they're looking down the road, they see something that makes him a better fit. But I was so surprised by that. So surprised by that. And honestly, secretly a little delighted for Jay Foster, who does Locked On Blue Jackets, because they got Adam Fantilli, and y'all, on ice, fantastic. What we've gotten to see from him just off of the ice, the top prospects did a fun little skate with some of the young players from the core program in Nashville. And you would not have found somebody having more fun than Adam Fantilli playing freeze tag on the ice. So just, interesting move, Anaheim. Yeah. Like, all right, we'll see.
Yeah, Jay from Locked On Blue Jackets is putting on a cane and top hat and is doing the "We're in the Money" dance from the Simpsons right now.
I think he's even got like a monocle. Like, he feels so good about this.
Yeah, like rocking in a rocking chair, smoking a pipe somewhere. That's his mood today. Let's talk about the other kind of big headline from round one, which is that nothing really happened during round one. Mm-hmm. No trades, and 0 trades, first time since 2007. Yeah, that happened. No, nothing in the first round. As somebody who was in the crowd, I would have liked some trades.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was there. We were in the crowd, and I met up with my dad at some point, and we got to we got past the Preds picks, and he's a Red Wings fan, so I got past the Red Wings pat, and we're at like 20 and 21, and we're starting to look, and it's like, all right, I think I'm ready for something to happen here, anything to happen. I think you heard David Poile yesterday say afterwards, he's like, that's just kind of a testament to how deep this draft is. Nobody wanted to give up a first-round pick. Nobody wanted to move back. He did wink and, kind of say, I have a feeling that's not going to happen on day 2. But I mean, are you surprised or at least maybe disappointed by the lack of trades for an entertainment standpoint? Or is this kind of a thing where you look at some of the teams who made picks and go, I get it?
Yeah. Just as somebody watching the draft, let's be here for the chaos. Yeah. Let's be here for some movement. And I also think there was an expectation set that anything could happen because, like you said, it was 4:00 and you and I are like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm hearing. This is what this person is saying. Like, what's going to happen? So I think there was an expectation that there were some teams that were talking about dealing. Predators, but Montreal, we'd heard for a couple of days, Montreal may be a team that's interested in maybe moving out of the 5 pick. And so I think there was an expectation going in that this could turn into an absolute rumble, a total draft free-for-all. And it just so orderly happened. So from a chaos standpoint, very disappointing, y'all.
Yeah, in terms of the Preds moving up, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but Barry Trotz is like, I tried. Like, he's like, I very much tried up until the last minute. Yeah, I mean, it's at least maybe towards the end of the draft, maybe a team like Toronto could have done well to maybe move back. I would have loved to see maybe a team be aggressive and get back into the end of the first round.
Yeah.
But again, just for entertainment standpoint, especially because Toronto, I think, had their 1 pick last night and then doesn't pick again till round 5. So maybe a few
29.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess from a player standpoint, that makes sense.
And as I think Poile was right in the sense that with this draft being so deep, if you weren't going to be able to break into a new sort of tier of talent, there really wasn't a lot of point in doing a ton of wheeling and dealing a little bit further down the line. So, once things kind of started rolling and the way that they started rolling, kind of the order in which some of these players were picked, some of the talent that I think everyone expected to go top 5, top 6, top 7 were available further down, and people just didn't feel the need to trade up to get what they were looking for. So it was very straightforward after a lot of drama, y'all.
Yeah. Again, the Preds wound up hanging on to their 2 picks. We are going to profile Matthew Wood and Tanner Molendyk, including our grades for the picks, coming up in just a second. But first, want to mention today's episode brought to you by Athletic Greens. Maybe you're like me. You want to be healthy. You want to eat well. You want to take care of your body. But it's always easier said than done, right? It can be expensive. You have to buy all those different vitamins, supplements, protein powders, all that good stuff to get all the help you need. That's not the case anymore with AG1. All you need is 1 delicious scoop of AG1 and a glass of water each day. When you do that, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Everybody loves adaptogens, Anne, to help you start your day right. It's a special blend of ingredients that supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, aging, pretty much everything. We get it. It can be hard and expensive to keep track of all the different supplements and vitamins, not to mention how hard it can be on your stomach. Well, AG1 costs you less than $3 a day, which is cheaper than your cold brew habit. And again, it's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. So you don't need to keep track of all those different pills and vitamins. So right now, time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, Ann. Nashville Predators try like hell to move up in the draft, according to Barry Trotz.
Yeah.
Said through everything he could, the teams in the top 5, nobody was really budging. I think you and I were on the floor. We even saw them have some discussions with teams that were like, 10 and 11. We saw him run over people from the Blues table, kind of go back and forth to the Preds. But in the end, Preds keep 15 and 24 with pick 15 from the University of Connecticut, Matthew Wood.
Yeah.
This was a guy that we talked with Eric Dene about, a big guy, but somebody with a lot of skill, somebody that Barry Trotz says is just a guy who scores goals.
That's why you have a scoreboard, Barry Trotz says.
He said the scoreboard. He's like, we have a scoreboard for a reason when talking about some of these. What's your take on this pick, Ann?
You know what? I think a lot of people were kind of underwhelmed or maybe a little bit surprised, I would say, by this pick. But I think if you go back and replay a lot of what Barry Trotz and David Poile have talking about, constructing this, resetting this team in this roster for the future, Matthew Wood fits a lot of what they're talking about in the sense that this is a guy who is a goal scorer. Yeah. He is going to put the puck in the net. He can shoot from most anywhere on the ice. He is a big guy. I love that he said he models his game after Tage Thompson, because when you look at him, you can see that. Did not know this. Tage Thompson also went to UConn. How about them apples?
Yeah, and Joachim Kondolik.
Oh my goodness, they grow them huge at UConn.
Yeah, so just any sort of tall boys. They're used to trying to rack up recruits for the basketball program. So the leftovers just get shipped to hockey.
They go to hockey, yeah. But, this is a 6'4", almost 200-pound, 18-year-old with a fantastic shot. He's very offensively minded. There are some concerns, I think, that made this pick a little bit like, record scratch for a couple people.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, because if you ask me, and you and I were both talking with Eric Dene in the media room last night, I would give this grade, maybe a B+.
Yeah.
If you were asking me to pick a draft grade. It is certainly the safe choice. I mean, you can make an argument that he was the best player available on the board at that time, on a lot of draft boards. He certainly gives the Preds something they need, which is a lot of skill, like a lot of creativity with the puck, really good hands, kind of good back and forth. Maybe the one area that the people had reservations about was he's not the best skater.
Ooh, yeah.
In terms of prospects in the top 20, in terms of forwards, maybe towards the bottom of the list when it comes to skating. And we heard how much Andrew Brunette and Barry Trotz coveted speed, so that was kind of a step back from that vision. And maybe there's somebody with a higher ceiling. It feels like Matthew Wood was definitely the safe pick there. Somebody, a hottie from Locked On Hockey podcast called that, said, he's kind of got Tyler Toffoli energy about him, just, a solid 30-goal scorer every year.
Which right now the Predators would love.
Which, yes, true. Yeah, my question is, did you leave somebody else on the board, like, Oliver Moore, who gives you that speed, B, he's more of a natural centerman, although Matthew Wood did play center at some points last year, and C, maybe a lower floor, maybe a riskier pick, but also somebody who you develop him right, and you all of a sudden have a legitimate game-changing prospect there. But that's why I would say B is maybe a little bit, of a safe pick.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think this is a B pick. But again, I just keep coming back to there is so much wizardry when you're evaluating picks in some ways for the NHL, because you are looking at an 18-year-old who is probably going to peak in another 4 years. So in 4 years with, skating instruction like the Predators have, and like he'll continue to get, he is going to return to UConn as of right now for next season. 4 years from now, what is Matthew Wood going to look like? And I think that it's a little bit tricky to evaluate that. And I think we've seen that time and time again with all the franchises. You make your very best guess. I really do like this pick. I think you're right. I don't know that he is going to be your dynamic, this dynamic piece of the Predators' future necessarily, but I think what you're going to get from him is what you're going to need also down the road. So I really did like this pick. But you know me, I just,
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, Anne, is I guess the one thing to say that I really do like about this pick is what was our big complaint with the Nashville Predators last year, especially when Philip Forsberg went down. Have all these great forwards, all these great play-up mans, but who's the guy who's going to finish the play?
Finish it.
The Predators have Joakim Kemell in the system now. Now they add Matt Wood, and all of a sudden you have two pretty good finishers in your pipeline. And, you heard Barry Trotz say it yesterday. He's like, hey, we have scoreboards in the NHL for a reason.
I love Barry Trotzisms.
Yeah, and Matthew Wood is certainly, I think, a guy who's going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm good with this, and I agree with you. I think people would like this pick more if Oliver Moore hadn't been available. I think this pick, the people who really are disappointed, very disappointed. I don't think there's that many of them, but the people who are going to grumble the most, I think, are going to grumble not about Matthew Wood's skill set necessarily as much as I think if we would have picked someone else, we would have gotten something else. So,
I mean, like I'm saying, like, this isn't like, you're certainly not saying this is a D grade or
no, not at all.
Like I said, this is like a pick where it's like, like that's fine.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about the Predators' second pick, Tanner Molendyk. I had to look up who this guy was because I have never heard this name in my entire life.
Neither had Pekka Rinne, in his defense.
Yeah, I think even Pekka Rinne was like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
But can we talk about just the overall bad night for legendary goaltenders announcing defensive picks?
What was that? God bless Price and Pekka. God bless them.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it would be a tough gig, but also I'm not the one standing up there getting ready to announce a name and change somebody's life. So maybe it's harder than it looks.
Yeah. Or, I guess if you're given the name Molendyk at the last second, you're like, say that one more time.
One more time. Give it to me again.
Yeah. This is an interesting pick, Anne, because this is somebody that a lot of people said was a reach. Our, prospects expert, Eric Dene, had him ranked 47th on his board. There are a lot of other people that had him ranked outside of the top 2 rounds, maybe a 3rd round guy. What are your thoughts on the Predators going defense with the 24th pick?
You know what? It's so interesting to me because Trotz and Poyle have been very upfront. They talked with media on Monday and said, look, our draft strategy is we take the next best available players. So we're not necessarily targeting forward defensemen. They ended up getting forward defensemen. And I think there are a lot of people, like you said, who would say you didn't really go and get the next best player on the board, but they saw something in him. And Tanner talked about this when he did his media availability, that he had talked with the Predators several times. And somebody said, how were those conversations? And he said, you know what? They were really easy. We laughed a lot. We had really great conversations. And let me tell you something, Smashville, you will love this kid. You will love this kid. This kid has just a touch of what I would call Ryan Johansson energy.
Yeah.
But I think that
there's now a space for that.
And do we not have we've got a spot, but he just has a really good energy about him. And look, this is not a kid who does not have a resume that makes, this is not an outrageous pick. This is somebody who I think a lot of people would say was one of the top skaters when it comes to defensemen in the league. Very good skater, great in his transition game. That would be lovely. Yeah. So I think that, there must be something with him personally that they liked. And people, I know people were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I don't know, man. And look, I'm an easy sell in a lot of ways, but during his media and stuff, I'm like, I can see why they would think, hey, this is a young man who may become a good culture piece for us. And that's something that Trotz has talked about, is we're going to look for culture pieces. Tanner may be that guy. And I think that he's got a defensive resume that does not make this as far-fetched as people think.
Yeah. To me, this is one of those things where if you take the round and placement off the board and you just say the Predators got Tanner Molendyk, you're excited to have this guy on your team. And when it comes to defensemen who can skate, there may not be a better defenseman in this class, maybe outside of Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who can skate.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, you watch some of his skating highlights. Dmitry Filipovich posted a great video where it's just, it looks like, watching Barry Sanders on ice skates. Where he's just like doing the juke moves past defenders. He's doing fake one way, go the other way. And then when the defender finally catches up, it's whoop, juke back the other way. And that defender looks like an idiot. He's very fast. He can use his breakaway speed to just skate right through people. And what has Barry Trotz said? We need speed, especially on the blue line. Transition game. I think you and I both agree that's something the Predators struggled with.
We could spice that up.
Yeah, he is, one of the better defenders in the draft in terms of transition, carrying the puck, moving the puck. The one thing that, we were talking with Hadi about this yesterday on the video that you can see on our YouTube channel right now, breaking down this pick. The one thing he said is, he doesn't really see the offensive potential, the scoring potential, the guy to be, kind of an offensive defenseman in the NHL. I disagree with that a little bit, or at least in terms of, maybe he's not Roman Josi, but I still think he's got the potential to be like the kind of blue liner that puts in, 40 points a season, something like that, which would be perfect for a defenseman. Yeah. You also have to consider the fact that he was, I think, on the second pair on his team in Saskatoon last year. There's two older players ahead of him on the depth chart. So unlike some guys like Reinbacher or Sandin-Pellikka, he wasn't getting the number one power play time, or he wasn't getting, all the offensive minutes or late game minutes. So this is a guy, to me, and you watch him skate, you watch him move with the puck, and you see the potential there. Like you see, some of the awareness things he made, some the really good plays, the awareness to get to the net. You see all that and you think, okay, this is something that can be worked on. And especially when we get to, next year or his draft plus 2 year, where he is the veteran on Saskatoon or, wherever he winds up, where he is getting those top minutes, then I think you're able to be like, okay, now we can work with him a little bit more and see what that potential there really, really is.
Yeah. And I kind of, in hearing people kind of talk about this pick and how they feel about this pick, it reminds me a little bit, what makes me feel better is to think back to the 8 games that we saw 8 or 6 games, we saw Spencer Stastny. And I know I always am talking about Spencer Stastny, but I love that kid's game. Spencer Stastny is a phenomenal skater. And you see how well that translates into defensive play. And I think, you know what, you can develop the other things. And this Tanner Molendyk's game sort of skating ability reminds me of just that effortless ability to keep up with the NHL game. And I'm not saying he has it now at 18.
No.
But I'm just saying, you know what, that skill translates pretty beautifully and can translate beautifully into the NHL down the road. And you can develop some of those other things. And again, here's the other thing that I want to highlight about this kid. I dare y'all to tell him that he may not be a great pick, because he was asked, like, who are you most excited to meet? Roman Josi, Philip Forsberg. Who are you most excited to play against in the NHL? Do you know who he said? Connor McDavid, baby. Like this, I really liked this kid. He makes a fabulous first impression. He's got a great vibe, and I think he has got a really good skill set. So let's see what happens with him.
Yeah. And you talk about the Predators wanting to do a big swing. You know, you talk about Barry Trotz telling his scouts to go get guys that, quote unquote, get people out of their seats.
Come on.
This is that swing.
Yes.
This is the big swing that the Predators wanted to make. And I do think there's some potential there. And let's also say, Anne, best hair. Some of the best hair in the draft.
And walks confidently with it on his head.
Yeah, the lettuce is ripe and ready for the picking there. The flow is going.
The flow is, y'all will really like this kid. I really think Nashville is going to really like this kid.
Yeah. Well, there's more draft to talk about because the Predators are still, as of now, picking 11 more guys. I have a feeling it may not be in the exact spots they're in right now because, as David Boyle said, I feel like you might see some movement on day 2. So we have plenty to talk about. Our full draft recap will be coming up here tomorrow. And again, if you want more in-depth analysis on the Predators' first 2 picks, we do have videos that we recorded last night at Bridgestone Arena on our YouTube page, one for Matthew Wood, one for Tanner Molendyk. So go check that out as well. Anne, where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
You can read my work at penaltyboxradio.com. Follow me on Twitter at _NS Morgan. I promise I know who Kyle Davidson is. Please don't take that video as a reflection of the entire team. Although, to be fair, did just look like a bro.
He just looked like a guy.
Did just look like a guy. That's going to do it for today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with more draft recap. We'll see you then.